Next up, the one and only Amos Bar Joseph from Swan AI, who needs no introductions as the way he's scaling is truly a black swan. Amos, how are you doing?
Yeah, I love the intro, Julia. I feel like a celebrity, all right, right now. So a lot of pressure on the shoulders to justify it.
I feel it too. A lot of people just attend this event just to see you. So, how are you doing? Tell us more about your method. How did you come up with it?
We when we started Swan, basically we grew tired of the old unicorn growth at all costs playbook where you raise a big fat seed round before you get to product market fit. You get to 30 people before you get to your first $1 million in ARR, and then you try to brute force your way into scale. And when we started Swan, we realized that we want to reinvent the playbook of how do you scale a company. And together with this concept of AI agents, we realized that the time is now. And more importantly, the time is now for a company to start from day one with this notion of scaling with intelligence, not headcount. And so we set out for this mission to discover how does a company look like if it starts from day one to scale with intelligence, not headcount? And how does that DNA looks like? How does that operating system looks like? And we're been building in public in the last 4 months, and we did like an amazing journey. And we're starting to show like a proof of concept of how this autonomous business might look like. And I'm here to tell the audience, how in the last 30 days, I've added over 300K ARR to this autonomous business single-handedly. Well, not exactly single-handedly, powered by an army of AI agents. So I'm excited to dive deep.
Let's do it.
Amazing. Guys, for those of you who are not familiar with Swan, and as I just mentioned, we're building an autonomous business. Basically, we're trying to scale to $30 million ARR, just the three founders, right? The mission and the vision here is basically getting to $10 million ARR per employee. Okay. And that's kind of like the North Star of an autonomous business. Basically, it moves from, valuation, inflation. We care less about getting to $1 billion valuation. What we really care about is that metric of ARR per FTE. Why? Because we believe that companies with high ratios of ARR per employee are companies that are well positioned for the AI revolution. There are companies that are scaling probably more with automation and intelligence rather than with headcount. And basically what started as a bold bet between friends is now becoming the new method, the new way of scaling a business. And I'm here to tell you all about kind of like the design principles of how you scale a business with intelligence, not headcount. But most importantly, this is a super practical session. So I'd love to share you like screen shares of how do we use our agents internally, and actually show you the gist of it. No fluff, no demos, no presentations. It's more about just getting a sneak peek into a real, three-person organization, a one-person go-to-market team that operates as fast as a small startup, but at enterprise scale. And so I'm excited to show you around. And Julia, you can feel free to jump in if you have any, clarification questions or anything. We'll always love your point of view. So I think that the start of everything is to understand that an autonomous business can scale with intelligence only if you build your AI agents around your humans. So I think like the most common mistake that people do when they look at AI, they're looking on processes and how they can replace processes with AI enabled processes. And so they can say, okay, I have like this notion of SDR right now that they're doing XYZ. How can I replace that human being and perform these processes with an AI? And I think that's the biggest mistake right now that a lot of executives are doing when they're looking at AI solutions and how to implement AI internally. And what they must understand is that the glass ceiling for replacing your workers with digital workers is very low, because this notion of getting cheaper labor for poorer quality has been around for ages. Nothing new here. But an autonomous business seeks to discover the 100x version of its talent stack, basically. So an autonomous business looks at its own talent, looks at its own human beings, and asks itself, how can we turn every human being on the team into the 100x version of themselves? And so that's a different way to look at AI. And that basically what stems out of it is that for every AI implementation, there's a human responsible for it, right? For every AI agent, there's a human orchestrating that agent, right? And so there will always be, potentially maybe until someday the machines will replace us all and we will just be slaves or whatever. But until that day, there will always be humans operating these AI agents and responsible for them. And so with that design principle, that is kind of like behind the entire thesis of building an autonomous business, we set out to build, the first one-person would look like. Buy off-the-shelf AI SDRs or things like that. We realized that we need to build and the human AI collaboration that is dedicated to our talent stack, in this case me. And when we took a look at Amos Bar Joseph and how can we amplify myself with AI agents, we realized that my biggest passion basically is storytelling, is writing content. Okay, that's me, and that's something that rises me above the noise and can separate me from the others, basically. And so what we realized pretty soon is that we're going to build this entire army around that passion of mine. And so I write on LinkedIn posts, and I share building in public, how we are building this autonomous business. We realize that's getting some traction, and so we start building these agents around that LinkedIn content motion. And so the core theme of this session basically will be to understand which agents did we build around that one-person go-to-market organization, and how do we design them, and we're going to take a look at actually how do they work and how do I work with them in my day-to-day, right? So it's not a demo of a specific tool, but rather a demo of an autonomous business, basically, and an autonomous GTM organization, basically. And when we look at it, before we dive deep into these exact agents and take a look at them, let's try to understand how we're going to walk through them together. It all starts with kind of like a funnel motion. So the way that we approached it is like, a funnel of a customer journey, basically. And it all starts through the passion, through the LinkedIn part of it. And so the first agent starts at, writing the content. We're going to discuss that. But it goes all the way down, from writing the content to leads that are visiting the website, to inbound, all the way to demos, etc. And so we're going to walk through this funnel together, and we're going to understand how it works, and how does a one-person GTM org can get to 300K ARR, $2 million in pipeline all by itself without any paid marketing budget, without any SDRs supporting me, without even a known brand that can tap into. And so it starts at the top of the funnel with Shakespeare. Okay, and Shakespeare is kind of like the agent that starts the entire motion and gets the wheels rolling. So Shakespeare helps me write content on LinkedIn that generates consistently over 1.5 million impressions each month, basically. And the way that Shakespeare works is that it's based on collaboration, right? It's not something that it could help me write more posts with less effort. It's not an agent that writes posts for me. It's about that collaborative motion where I throw my thoughts on Shakespeare, and then Shakespeare pings me back with, okay, this is how I think we should approach it. This is the arc, etc. And we work it step by step together, kind of like a thought partner, to generate these posts that are consistent. And Shakespeare is trained on my voice. It has access to all of the posts that I've already written down, and it has access to our content pillars and what does it mean to build an autonomous business, etc. And it has all that context when it's kind of like advising me. Plus, it can go online and perform research and help me, curate insights on writing these posts, etc. Right, so that's the top of the funnel. But I would like to show you, more interesting agents and take a look, kind of like sneak peek into how they operate. So if we go one step below that, I have 15,000 people engaging with my posts every month. And that's like a gold mine, right, on LinkedIn, of people who are showing intent, interacting with specific content pieces that we want to leverage. And so we have the Observer, basically, which is an AI agent that monitors my LinkedIn posts and basically surface up high intent leads that are interacting with that, right? Everything flows into Slack, so I don't need to change my workflow. And I get all the context I need, so I know exactly which person should I reach out to and how. And Julia, can the audience see my screen right now?
Not yet.
Not yet. So how about now?
Yep.
Amazing. Perfect. So what you're looking at is the Amos LinkedIn engagement channel, which I have a bunch of kind of like agents who are pushing here relevant updates about hot leads. And as I've just mentioned, I have 15K, reactions and comments on LinkedIn. That's a lot of noise, and I cannot do it. And a human being could not do it. So it's not about hiring someone or replacing someone with an AI agent. It's just, building an AI agent that can, monitor these posts and surface hot ICP leads who are interacting with it. So we have, the post reviewer here who said, I'm done reviewing, that specific post where I talked to 3 Series A founders. It found 14 new interactions because it's always updating. And every time there's in a cadence, it will kind of like read the following new interactions and we'll filter it out and say, okay, 2 were relevant out of these 14 interactions. And I can go into these interactions basically, and I say, okay, first interaction by Catrick is the founder of GTM Advisor, Expedite GTM. The agent will tell me that they're a B2B GTM leader, which suggests that they're involved in companies with their go-to-market strategies, etc. So they fit into our ICP description, which is basically fractional CROs who are looking to amplify Swan voice and share it with their own customers. But it doesn't stop there. It will highlight the comment because it realized that this is an interesting comment. If it wasn't a comment with kind of like any meat with it, it won't surface it. But it says here that, the entire comment here was really profound and was responsive to what I said. But then it goes another step further, and it actually highlights 5 comments on other posts by that person that might be relevant to what we do. And so, I see that he commented on, AI's role in B2B marketing experiment. And I can see that ABM's limitations in marketing strategy. And so I know that these topics are relevant to that specific person. So I can connect, Swan's value proposition to, B2B marketing and experimentation and ABM specifically. So I can actually talk about experiments and ABM in the context of AI just from looking at this section. So it takes me 30 seconds to understand that this is a hot lead that is showing genuine intent, and I know the exact angle on how to reach out to, so I can create immediate rapport and connect the value proposition of Swan in the perfect way. And it doesn't stop here. I have a bunch of other agents who are amplifying my LinkedIn activity. So I get over 300 connection requests each day. That's a lot of traffic to go through, and I cannot do that. So I have the invite reviewer here who goes over my connection requests, found all the relevant connection requests that are like ICP leads who are trying to connect with me, right? So we can look at it kind of like one step lower in the funnel. These are leads who are actually wanting to connect with me and have a conversation, but they didn't send anything. So the agent goes over that and says, look, I accepted these 24 insights, but I sent 6 DMs to the ICP leads, basically. And I can go over them here and understand why that agent made that rationalization, etc. And I only need to enter the conversation whenever there's a reply. So I don't waste time here on, connection invites that won't reply, etc. I only spend my time on, the invites that want, to reply, that wants to have that conversation. And so I'll pause here for a second because there are a couple of, principles here that are super important to understand, guys. So first of all, the work of Shakespeare or the work of the observer or the connector are not, processes that were designed by a human being before that, and we replaced them. You can only understand and discover these processes if you were asked yourself, how can we amplify Amos, right? And it was a discovery process. Each layer that we engaged with, unveiled a challenge that we needed to solve. That challenge showed us a pattern, and that pattern resulted in an agent, basically. So it started with a bottleneck in writing the posts, and then it led to a bottleneck in having all these activities on the post themselves. And then it led to another bottleneck in getting all these invites. And so what led us was how can, we can turn Amos into that 100x version. And that is an amazing example. Another design principle that we have here is that agents come to you. You don't go to them. Okay. And so everything happens in Slack. This is our core operating system. And, we usually, we work with a lot of go-to-market leaders who like to have everything in Salesforce first, and they want to get all their reps go to Salesforce, and everything, maintains in the same processes that you have today. But you need to understand that whether it's in Slack or not, you need to have that, transformation mentality to be able to transform how your existing processes looks like, because agents, they disrupt the entire workflow, and you need to understand, you need to be willing to change how your reps are interacting with software, basically. And what we realize is that because agents can be proactive, then it's more about having them concentrated in this notification layer, basically. And so Slack is really good for having a conversational interface, which is important for agents, and we're going to show why, but also a conversational interface that is focused on notification where you are reactive. And when you look at Salesforce, for example, you're not reactive in Salesforce. You need to be proactive. You need to dig deep into the tables and the profiles of the companies, etc. And it's not built for just the reps sitting and getting the all the focusing the attention on only what matters. And so that's why we chose Slack for that. And I'm not saying necessarily that you need to choose Slack as kind of like that engagement layer, but you need to understand that agents change the entire dynamics with your reps from being proactive to being reactive. And that is the opportunity that you can take when you're leveraging agentic workflows. And I'd love to go down in the funnel and show you a little bit more AI agents here. Julia, you have a question before that?
Yeah, we have already, like you made the sale. We have a lot of, I'm receiving messages here. So Louise is saying this platform is far better than LinkedIn Sales Navigator. What's the pricing for a monthly and yearly subscription? Cheers.
So pricing is usage based, and we start small. So like the minimum package for us is $150 per month, and it's based on volume. And I encourage you guys to DM me to get a better understanding of exactly what could fit your specific use case. But I think there's an important note here about, I'll connect the pricing question to an AI question. Okay, guys? Because it's an agentic discussion. So we believe that AI agents should be implemented in a crawl, walk, run adoption methodology. So it's always about starting with a very small use case that you can scope it in a very limited small team, and you can prove ROI in a very fast manner. And you start by crawling in that specific use case. Then walk means that you want to prove that you can scale that POC into more use cases, and you only need a POC that would prove that you can scale it, not to scale it to everything. If you did that walk and you prove that, then run is meaning, okay, next step is full company adoption. And so Swan's pricing is really kind of like tailored to that crawl, walk, run methodology. And so that's why it's really could be tailored to what you're looking for in that case, that you can start really simple, really small, get value even like at the first day, or if you want, you can expand more within your company.
Awesome. Moving on.
Amazing. So when we look at the funnel, if we go back to the funnel analogy and how all these AI agents are built, so we looked at Shakespeare, which is kind of like top of the funnel, generating the content. Then we have the observer, who kind of like monitors, the engagement with this content, and then the connector, which monitors, the people who saw that content but wanted to connect. Next up, we have the folks that from the post visited our website but didn't convert, and we don't know who they are. And so we all know how important is first party intent, but it's really hard for companies to really capitalize on that data because there's so much noise in that data. And so what usually happens is that reps get flooded with quote unquote hot leads. And so it's so hard for them to filter out, the noise and to signal from the noise. And so they get lost in it and they just leave that channel and, return to the processes that they're familiar with. But when you work with AI agents, they can surface that needle in a haystack that you want to work on. And if we go back to the fact that you're reactive with AI agents, so they could do all the work for you, and all you need basically is to just absorb that context and make a decision to engage, not to engage, and if so, how. That takes you 40 seconds, like I showed you before. And so we're going to see another example here of how our AI agents are able to highlight hot leads that are interacting with our website but didn't fill out a form, didn't request access, and we kind of like don't know who they are without that specific solution. And so basically, Julie, can you see my screen? Awesome. So we have the Swan website visitors channel. Right? It's all in Slack. And Swan is able to de-anonymize your traffic. It is connected to amazing website de-anonymization providers, so it can do person level de-anonymization or company level de-anonymization, etc. So here we have Jessica, which is a customer of ours today. But back then she wasn't. She was just a visitor in the website, and she was a VP marketing. And Ninja Cat, the agent notifies me about that specific visit, but it only notifies me about qualified visitors already. So it already did the work in the back of the scene. It researched Ninja Cat, and it realized that this is a company within my ICP, but more importantly, it fits our US B2B SaaS segment, which is kind of like the high value segment that we have because we love working with B2B SaaS companies, specifically in the US or in Europe. And so it can make that reasoning and explain, yeah, of course, they're a US-based software company. That's their firmographics, et cetera, because they're a marketing analytics platform, right? But then, that's not enough, right? If I was a rep, I needed to do much more work. And, we're an autonomous GTM org. I don't have time for anything almost. I need everything handed to me on a silver platter. And so I can go to the thread here and see what happened with that specific lead. And so I know that basically it tells me that they are qualified. They visited our pricing, that their CRM, it's HubSpot. It did all that research, that what was their last customer-facing announcement. They released their AI, agency of the future survey, because we always love saying to our customers, oh, you know what? I noticed that you released that customer-facing announcement that probably drew a lot of attention to your website. Are you doing anything with the leads that didn't convert? Right. And so basically we can see all the research that the agent did in advance here, which is amazing. It found the relevant buying committee already. So I have, the VP marketing, which is the visitor, but I also have the VP sales, the growth marketing manager, etc. But then it says, hey, I need your approval, Amos. I want to engage Jessica, right? And because this is a hot lead, I will never let Swan engage that lead without my approval, because this is like lower in the funnel, and we love the fact that it watched our pricing, etc. So it will surface this message in Slack and will ask me, look, I want to engage it. This is the LinkedIn profile that I want to engage it with. It's actually not my LinkedIn profile, by the way, that I could send messages from, because our CTO has the highest conversion rates. So if you get a message from our CTO, it might be me in the back of the scene, and it says, hey Jessica, yada yada. It's a personalized message. So it says that we can help you engage marketing agencies. That's their like ICP, etc. And then I can approve it, edit it, or deny. This message was approved within Slack. I didn't need to go outside of Slack to approve that message. It is sent on LinkedIn. I clicked on button in Slack and it is sent on LinkedIn, and then I will get a notification when there is a reply. So it says, "Hi Neve, I've heard of Swan. Yes, I would like to learn more. Do you offer a trial?" And then Neve, the CTO, will say, "VP Marketing loves me." This is all like a real conversation, from our Slack channel, and I can even chat with Swan and tell it, you know what, Swan, let's change the buyer persona research question, because I noticed that the way that it did research wasn't great like I really wanted it to. And so I can fine tune the research that it does based on just that Slack message. And so that is why it's important to have a conversational interface, because I can interact with these agents. I can talk with them, and I can tell them to change our ICP, or to change how they do research, or to change the messaging, or to learn more about a customer. All these interactions could be performed out of this basically Slack instance. And Julia, I wish we had more time, and I would love to show you more agents that we have here within that Slack channel. We didn't see, due to the lack of time, like the most promising agents that we actually have. So maybe for the next session, you're going to see kind of like the hottest, most revenue yielding agents that are not visible yet here. So just to give a taste. Before we wrap it up, I'd love to finish kind of like with kind of like a message here to the audience. Julia, do we have like one more minute?
For sure. Yeah.
Amazing. So to build this AI agent army, you don't need any AI proficiency. You don't need to understand AI at all. And I think that's the most biggest misconception in AI right now, that you need to be an AI genius to build an army of AI agents to become an autonomous GTM organization. It's not about that. It's basically about developing a muscle of building in low no code automation tools, and it's about experimenting and taking every step, just pushing yourselves into it, diving deep into the deep waters. It's not rocket science. All you need to do is have these automation muscle within your company to be able to automate processes and have a talent that is dedicated to that. And that's it, basically. Just push them and let them experiment, let them iterate, and they will be, an AI players in less than a couple of months, basically.
Thank you so much, Amos. A lot of people actually ask the question that you just addressed. Everybody's thinking that you have to be extremely technical to build this, and they're expecting you to actually show how. And some questions are coming in about GDPR and in-mail credits. If you can address that lastly, and yeah.
Yeah. So of course, so Swan is GDPR compliant. We only do person level de-anonymization for US visitors. Whenever it's outside of the US and mainly kind of like in Europe, we only do company level identifications. But then we have the agent that kind of like just does all the work, finds the buying committee, exactly who to reach out, the research, the personalization, and serves everything on a silver platter, whether in your CRM or in Slack. It helps you engage on LinkedIn. And regarding InMails, so we don't require a sales nav account actually to use Swan. So we want to encourage the entire company to connect their LinkedIn accounts. So you can play these games of reaching out from your CTO, reaching out from your customer support, reaching out from your CEO or whatever. You can play these games. You don't need a sales nav account basically to use Swan. We can send a connection request and then like a DM, etc.
Awesome. Unfortunately, I have to wrap this up. What an amazing session. We have to do a sequel. Questions keep coming. Lots of questions about your possible partnership with LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess just the last one, what's the best next step? How do people get involved with you, with Swan?
Yeah. So first of all, you're welcome to DM me on LinkedIn. Amos Bar Joseph, and promise to answer each and every one. Although I get that 300 connection requests each day, I go over everything. Either me or my AI agents, doesn't matter. We're kind of like symbiotic. And if not, you can go to getswan.com. And request access to our platform. It's on a request access basis. And finally, I have a newsletter. Guys, so if you want to sneak peek into the behind the scenes and get these insights into your mailbox like every week, basically just look for the Big Shift newsletter in Beehive or just DM me.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And we are transitioning to our next session.